Good morning, I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. Have you ever walked down a produce aisle and just been terrified of all those ingredients that you don't know what to do with? Well, today we're doing just that. I'm giving you recipes for mysterious ingredients in your produce aisle today on SoFlo Taste. How fun is that? Good morning and welcome all to the Goya Kitchen at JA World in Coconut Creek. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. How wonderful is it that we live in SoFlo and we have a diversity of people, cuisines, food ingredients, but since some of those ingredients have come to us from those people and cuisines, they might not be familiar to us. So today I thought it would be fun to explore some of those ingredients and show you some wonderful recipes that you can make with them. So let's get cooking. This is really about walking through the produce aisle and seeing all kinds of produce. And I'm talking about more of the kind of Latin section of the aisle. So let's just jump right into yuca. You need a really strong, good peeler. So you just want to peel, and it's very waxy. The peel on the yuca is a really waxy peel. But it's so pristine on the inside. So there we go. Let's peel the other side a little bit. It's really easy to get through. You don't have to push hard at all. So now we're starting with this beautiful, pristine, cleaned yuca. I don't know why I don't use this more often. This vegetable really just is so good with so many different things, and it makes me happy. So I'm going to cut the ends off, and then I'm going to cut it, I think, basically in half. Then I'll cut that half in half lengthwise, and then I'll cut that into about 3 to 4 pieces each. So let's cut that in half. And before I do that, I'm going to take out the little middle part, which is like the stem, because whenever you're cooking yuca, even if you cook frozen yuca, there's always a hard center. And so just to omit that, I'm just going to cut it out now. Now you can go ahead and cook it with it. It doesn't really matter because you can pull it out after it's cooked. Then I would cut that one more time in half, unless you like it bigger, which it doesn't really matter. You can cook it like this, or you can cook it like this. And then you would put this in cold water. I like to start in cold water with my yuca. Bring that up to a boil, settle it down to a simmer, and I always cook it in salted water. So this is what it looks like once it's cooked. It starts kind of breaking apart a little bit at the ends, and it's beautifully tender. And it's really just delicious like this. And look how gorgeous it is. It's creamy on the inside, and it kind of still set on the outside. It's really a delicious vegetable. And I'm going to teach you how I like to eat it. So I just love to serve it with a little mojo de ajo. And we're going to use mojo de ajo on 2 things today. So let's just make a big amount of it. It lasts in your fridge for a really long time. So let's get started. I like to use 2 different kinds of oil, a nice simple vegetable oil, canola's fine, and a little bit of olive oil. Nothing too fancy, by the way. Then to that, let's go ahead and add a nice amount of minced garlic. Okay. To that, the spices are really important. I love some cumin as well as some coriander. Coriander is the seed from the cilantro, so it's just natural that the coriander would go into these flavors. And then finally, something I have a hard time living without, sazon. You can find complete seasoning. A lot of different people make it, and it's just wonderful. It does have a little MSG, so if you're sensitive to MSG or against the idea, then don't bother with this. But I was brought up having my sazon, so I'm going to add it to this. I'm finally going to add a heavy pinch of salt. I'm going to add the onions in, obviously red onions, cut nice and thin, but not too crazy thin. Stir these around a little bit. We're not looking for any color. We're just looking for everything to soften. Everybody makes their mojo a little bit differently, so don't judge mine. Now, when it comes to the acid, which is really important, the acid in the mojo. I'm going to shut off the heat, by the way, so I don't want to cook this anymore. I just want it to soften a little bit. So there's different things you can do. Traditionally, there was always, you ever seen this in the market? This is a sour orange. It's a true combination of the flavor of an orange and the flavor of a lime. It's a wonderful taste. So we juiced some sour oranges. Now, I also love to use a little bit of white vinegar in my mojo. So I combine a little bit of the flavor of the white vinegar with a little bit of the sour orange, a little bit more salt. Now the cilantro, I don't normally put my cilantro in my mojo in my fridge because I don't want that cilantro to sog out too much. So I like to put it fresh whenever I use mojo on anything. I finish it with cilantro. And I don't like to chop it up too big either. I like it very roughly chopped. And I add a little bit of stem because to me, there's so much more flavor in that stem. So let's go ahead and serve up some of this yuca. Leave it in some warm water. Don't let it keep cooking, it's gonna get too mushy. But leave it in nice warm water, it'll sit beautifully. And it goes with absolutely everything. Your tummy will be very happy. It's really good for your tummy. Let's scoop up some of this gorgeous fresh mojo de ajo. By the way, as it sits, it only gets better. Finish with some cilantro. What a beautiful beginning to a very interesting day. I cannot wait to teach you about how to attack these gorgeous, gorgeous pieces of produce, and you're gonna love it. Come right back. There's so much more today.
There's still more from the Goya Kitchen at J.A. World and Michelle.
SoFlo Home Project is next. Now, back to the food.
Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. All of my recipes, including today's, are available on the SoFlo Show's webpage. Scan this quick response code for immediate access to the fabulous SoFlo Show's page. You'll also see this QRC on the ingredient list throughout the show. Now back to the food. So this is a boniato. Boniatos are really cool because they have the starchiness of a potato and the sweetness almost of a sweet potato. It's like almost there. It definitely has a beautiful creaminess and starchiness and sweetness about it, and I adore it. And I love the way I cook it. I serve it at Cafe La Trova this way, and it's one of my favorite vegetable recipes that I make. Now, interesting about the boniato, the more red it is, really like a brighter color red, like this one, means that it's more fresh. The darker they get, the less fresh they are. Just something to note. All right, so let's go ahead and peel this, just like we peeled the yuca. It doesn't have the waxiness. It's not dipped in wax like the yuca is, but it definitely has a thick peel to it. As you see, it has a pristine center as well. The only thing though about this, it's kind of like a potato where it starts to darken very quickly, which is why I cook mine in milk. So we'll be cooking boniato in milk. And if you do not eat dairy, you can cook it in a rice milk or a soy milk, but I like rice milk. I like that idea. But today I'm cooking it the way that I do, which is in cow milk. All right. Once you've got it really clean, like this, go ahead and just cut it up in any old fashioned, but you want them to be sort of even because you want them to cook evenly. So slice it up and then chunk it up, and then you'll put it into milk and cook it, which I have going right over here. And it becomes sort of translucent when it cooks. I'm going to go ahead and strain it. But I never get rid of the milk because you never know if you need a little bit of milk to make the mixture a little bit nicer and smoother. So I'm going to go ahead and put the milk back in the pot. Put the boniato in the bowl. Let's bring the pot with us, and let's come over to my hand mixer. So I love putting mojo in my boniato mash. I actually make it together. And instead of making a mashed potato with like some butter and flavorings, I love to use all this beautiful oil and juice from my mojo. Even throw in some of those onions too. So let's put mainly the juicy part, but a little bit of the onion in there. And let's go ahead and mix that up. This is going to be the brightest mash you'll ever eat. So as you can see, it's a little on the dry side, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding a little bit of milk into it to make it creamier. At the same time, I'm going to grab a spoon and just push everything down into it and just gently mix it. You'll need a little bit of salt, but not much, because remember, your mojo de ajo has a lot of salt in it. There we go. Really quick, I'm going to go ahead and just before I finish this, I'm going to cook a little bit of cherna or grouper, because I think fish is so beautiful with a boñato cooked this way. So let's cook a quick grouper. And this beautiful grouper is from Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market. So take a look at how beautiful this fish is. And grouper is so good with all these flavors because it is, you know, a meaty fish and it just goes beautifully with this boñato. And remember, as the heart month of February winds down, my friends over at Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market want me to tell you that they can help you cook heart healthy with their chicken, turkey, seafood, and so much more. Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market is at 4191 North State Road 7 in Hollywood. You can't miss it. It's got a big chicken on the roof. Visit DelawareChicken.com to get some information. You can always call them 954-983-6831 or just go see them. Take that store in because it is amazing. They have so many things. I learn something new every day. They're always turning me on to different stuff. And make sure you tell them I sent you. All right, so I'm just going to do salt and pepper. We have so much flavor in that boñato. So let's go ahead and add this in here. No butter needed. We've got milk going in the boñato puree. All right, I'm just going to walk away and keep finishing this boñato really quick. So boñato's ready. Make sure you taste it to make sure it has enough seasoning. Because remember, I did not salt it because of the mojo de ajo that I put in it. It needs just a little bit of salt. And this is just going to go beautifully. I don't like to sear my grouper too hard. I actually like to do a nice soft cook on it. Like I don't get it too golden in color because I feel like it dries it out a little bit. All right, while you take a quick break, I'm gonna finish cooking up this grouper. We're gonna put it on top of this gorgeous boñato mash, top it with a little extra mojo because why not? And come back for another recipe, actually with another country in mind, in a moment. So make sure you come right back. We'll see what's cooking on SoFlo Taste right after this. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. As I am every week, I'm coming to you from the incredible JA World. It's a great educational venue for our kids. For more JA information, visit jasouthflorida.org or call them at 954-979-7100. Now back to something mysterious in your produce aisle. All right, everyone, it's time to learn my version of a soup called sancocho. There's a lot of different variations of sancocho. Of course, every family that is Colombian says that their sancocho is how you make sancocho. But today I want to show you mine because it uses all of these great ingredients that you will find in your produce aisle, but you might be a little, I don't know, taken aback. How do I use it? How do I peel it? What do I do? So I'm going to first show you how to start this soup and then we'll get into that. So we're going to add a little bit of oil to the pan. Now ahead of time, I like to poach chicken ahead of time for this so that the the chicken is poached perfectly. So this is chicken that I poached in chicken broth, and then the chicken broth is what I use to make the soup. Got it? Good. We're going to start out with some chopped up yellow onions, a little bit of garlic, and green peppers. Stir that around until it just starts getting really nice and soft. You don't want to caramelize at all for this soup. Once it has started to soften, you're going to add some green tomatoes. If you can't find green tomatoes in the store, just omit that ingredient. I love adding saffron to my sancocho. It adds a lovely golden hue plus a little bit of a mysterious flavor that I just adore. So I add a little bit of hot, almost boiling water to my saffron to really open up the flavor, and then I add that to my soup. Calabaza. ¿Qué pasa, calabaza? So this is a calabaza. This is a squash, a Latin squash. You'd want to scoop out the seeds and go ahead and peel it, chop it up. Peel it with your peeler, by the way. Chop it up and throw that in. Green plantains. This is delicious in the soup, but you really need to make sure they're cooked all the way through so that they're beautifully tender. They are not sweet at all. Peel them, chop them up. Yuca, which we've already talked about, peeled and chopped. Corn. Every Latin soup has corn in it. Mom always used to put slices of corn in soup. So you basically just take a cleaned ear of corn, slice it up, and go ahead and put some slices in your soup. We're going to add the chicken stock or chicken broth to it. Want to make sure that everything is well covered with broth. And just let her go. Oh, by the way, I didn't show you how beautifully my grouper came out. So this is the grouper over the boniato puree. It has the mojo mixed into the boniato puree, but it also has a little bit on top. If you have some oranges around in your kitchen, go ahead and segment some and throw them onto that dish. It's absolutely beautiful. So to cut the plantain, we usually like to cut off both ends. And then there's different ways to do it. You can do it lengthwise. It's a little easier if you just cut it into 3. So then you can slice about 4 slits into it, and you can go ahead and peel like so. Or, if you'd rather, you can take a paring knife and go ahead and just cut around the fruit. It is a shame not to use plantains living in South Florida. We grow them, we love them, we embrace them, and we love them sweet and we love them savory. So that's about it. So you peel the plantain and then you go ahead and cut it into any way you want to. All right, so let's go ahead and finish up this soup together. Once everything has cooked, which I have over here, I love to add cilantro into it and a little bit of jalapeno, not to make it spicy at all, to give it just a little boost of flavor. So I'm going to gather everything up in a ladle except for, of course, the corn, because that's not good because it's on the cob. So just a little bit of the veggies and the broth. It also helps to thicken the soup as well if you want to give it a little viscosity. Take as much or as little jalapeno as you want. Now remember, the seeds and the veins are the spicier part of the jalapeno, which is not a very spicy chili anyway. So just add a couple of those in there, as well as some cilantro. Go ahead and puree this until very smooth. Oh, yeah. Let's show them how creamy that is and how green that is. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to my sancocho, and when you come back, let's see how it all turns out. I'll see you in just a minute. SoFlo Taste will return right after this. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. So this is our finished sancocho. I warmed up the chicken back into it, It has this gorgeous green hue, and I have to tell you, that jalapeno and cilantro that I just poured into it really just finishes this dish beautifully. If you'd like to adorn these gorgeous vegetables that you learned about today with a little bit of fresh cilantro, you may. I think it's so much fun to use ingredients that aren't familiar to us. It takes us out of our comfort zones and makes us better cooks. Next week, the weather report is for freezing. I'll be giving you recipes perfect to have at all times in your freezer. These are either full meals or parts of meals for you to pull out and heat up until they are delicious. So put on your ski cap and gloves and join me on the next freezing cold SoFlo taste. Let's say good morning to Elena Capra, host of SoFlo Home Project. Good morning, Elena. What's next?
Hi, Michelle. Good morning. So today we share easy ways to add personality to any room of your home with accessories. Coming up on SoFlo Home Project, we take a look at the latest trends and stylish home decor for your home.
Okay, my dears, sounds great. We can all use help in accessorizing, so we will be watching. So taste buds, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye, and good taste.